Hi everyone, so today I'm going to show you how to build your own wall mount for gamepads. Doesn't matter if it's an Xbox or a PlayStation or anything else that fits in there, will be sitting on your wall nice and tightly. So I checked a few options online, on eBay, on Amazon, and I found that most of them are either overpriced or they're just not worth it. They're a piece of plastic, and you would not want to pay like 15 bucks for a simple, piece of plastic that actually costs like 50 cents. So instead, we are going to improvise and we're going to use stuff that you can buy at your dollar store or convenience store. And I'm going to show you how it's all done nicely and easily today. So to start, basically what we're going to use as the actual holder for the gamepad is going to be a simple bottle mount that you use on your bike. And these are very commonly available, and you can buy this one from eBay for like 99 cents, so basically $1. So this is your dollar right here, and I'll show you how we're gonna use it. So the second part that we'll need is we'll need a few bolts and nuts. So the smaller the better. I got these ones from a Meccano construction set that was lying around. They fit perfectly, and as you probably know with Meccano, there's plenty of those. So here you go. We'll need two of these sets per mount, right? So then another very important thing here. So you need double-sided tape, or in my case, what I'm using is this tape that you can easily click in place and remove whenever you need it. So I find it more convenient. Why? Because it's just sometime if you wanna wipe the wall, if you screw it up, so you can just easily remove the actual mount and do your cleaning, and then just put the mount back. So I really recommend this stuff. This is from Scotch. There are a lot of other alternatives in the market, and usually this thing costs around 10 bucks at Walmart. But sometimes you can find this at dollar store for like $1 or $2. Sometimes they have the excess, and the vendor, I guess, just sells it to dollar store. All right, so that's a third part, and then what we will need to actually shape it all in place is we'll need a Dremel. So in my case, I'm using one of these Dremels. This is a cheaper Mastercraft version. I live in Canada, so we have this brand here, Mastercraft, which is sold by Canadian Tire. If you're barely ever using it, so this is a cheaper version of the famous Dremel, and it does its job. I never had any problems with it, and I've done so many DIY projects, and it never lets me down. So that's all that we'll need, and now I'll show you how it's all done. Alright, so I have my Dremel out, and what we doing today is we are going to nicely cut off this top joint of the holder nicely, so that it looks like it's never been there. And we're gonna obviously cut the other side as well. And then here where we have this like a little elbow here where the sides of the mount are connecting. So what we'll do here is we'll cut it off approximately around this area. So by cutting it here, it will leave us a slight hook that will allow us to hold the gamepad in place. So in case if somebody accidentally touches it, and or if your mount is going to be attached to a shelf, so in case if somebody is shaking the shelf, it's not going to fall off. So that's why we're leaving a slight hook in here. So after we are done, what we'll do as well, so we'll use one of these metal pieces for the Dremel. And with this piece, what I usually like to do, because we're gonna use the adhesive tape, so what we'll do here, we'll roughen up the surface here, so that the tape attaches better, because currently it's like it's this nice and smooth surface, so the tape sometimes doesn't attach to it as well as when it's having something to hold on to, right? So that's the first step. All right, I've done some cutting in the background, and this is a final look how it should look like. Basically, I haven't roughed the back part yet, and what we're also going to do is we're going to polish some of these rough edges that were created by the heat, and some of the plastic actually melted while I was cutting it. And also, as I told you, so I did cut off the one of the joints here, and I'm also going to polish it away so it all looks nice and beautiful in there. So this is the part. And also about these hooks, try not to make them too kind of long in this section. So I like to keep it about finger width here. Why? Because on some controllers you have the thumbstick sticks too close, especially like on PlayStation, too close to the center of the actual gamepad, and basically it will be touching. So I just don't like that happening, and I tend to prevent it. So to polish it, we'll use one of these attachments for your Dremel, and it will make it nice and smooth. Give me a second and I'll come back to you. All right, so all that was done now, and as you can see, I polished away all these edges. It's not even visible that something was there before. And also what I've done here, I rounded up these sharp edges we had. So this is usually done to prevent any scratches on your gamepads, especially if you have one of those chrome covers. So if you leave these edges sharp, they will definitely scratch it. So this is how it looks like straight out of making. I also took away this shine, as you can see. And what we'll be doing now, I'll wash the part. Why? Because the actual Dremel polishing creates a lot of dust. And speaking of that, make sure that you're using some kind of eye protection and using face mask, just not to breathe, all this plastic dust, and just, stay safe. So give me a second, I'll wash it and I'll come back to you. Alright, so here it is, nicely washed, and make sure it's dry at the back because we're gonna be using adhesive tape here. So what I like to do is I like to attach a entire piece of the tape to the back side. So just measure it nicely so it goes. Don't waste the tape as well. So just measure it approximately around here so it covers the actual base. Because there's no point to waste any extra tape if it's not attached to anything. Okay, so I cut it off. And what we're doing here is pretty obvious. So I will remove the adhesive stripe and I will attach it this way around. So make sure that at the top you have a little bit of extra so that it's covering the entire piece. Okay, like that. So apply some pressure on it, make sure it sticks. So then you will end up having some of these extra edges. So it's up to you. If your wall is white, then most likely you won't even see it. But oh, my cat just fell. Okay, so and basically, if your wall is black and you want to conceal it, then I suggest you trim the edges here. So in my case, my wall is white, so I'll just leave it as is. And I also done this before. And if you're living in humid conditions and you are having your controller in place for quite some time, so what tends to happen to these tapes, especially when they don't have enough grip, they tend to separate from the base. And so if your controller is attached too high on the wall, you might actually even damage it. So to prevent that, this is where we'll be using the Meccano screws that I told you about. And to do that, it's actually very simple. So what we're doing here is I'm just gonna use one of the scissor blades, and you see where we have the holes for the screws in here on the mount. So I'll just make a tiny little hole in there. Make sure you don't cut your fingers. And so, not too big, but just like a couple of turns in there, and do the same thing at the bottom as well. So the Meccano screws will allow us to actually keep this thing in place for us. So here I am pushing it through. So if you have a shorter one, see, like this one is sticking out. So it's right at the level of the of this rib of the holder. Should be fine. But if you have a slightly shorter ones, like in my case I do, I'll show you. So I just get it out of there. So this is a shorter one, and the way it goes in the same. Okay, so there's basically no way the gamepad is going to actually touch it because it's deeper inside. And what we'll do is, so we'll try to push this screw head as deep as possible in there, and it should be stopped by the by the tape, because the hole was just big enough for the actual shaft of the bolt. So, and what we're doing here is we'll attach this nut to it, and obviously we'll just fix it here. It's not very comfortable to do it in front of the camera there. Your hand stretched, so here you go. So just tie it up, and as with most of the Meccano tools, you should be having one of those screwdrivers. Find mine. And if you don't have the screwdriver for Meccano bolts or any other bolts, so I use one of these. Okay. And you don't need to tie it too tight. Basically, you just need to make sure it stays in place and it's somewhat tight, you know. What this will do is it will just keep the adhesive tape in place for you in case if it decides to unglue itself. And that's how it will look like. So 2 bolts are in place, and this is the finished product here. To attach it well to the wall, so what I do is I clip on some of this tape that I will be using on the wall itself. Make sure it's nice and tight in here. Okay, so just cut off the excess. This thing is really hard to cut as well. So there you go. So this is done, and it's ready to be mounted on your wall. And let me show you how it will look like with the gamepad on it. So once you have attached the holders to the wall, this is how they look like. I have two in place here. This is a Xbox. I have a few more, so I will be adding a few on top and on the side. And as you can see, they're very neat. And this is how they look like on the wall, right next to your bed, or as a multimedia center. So see, it easily fits the PlayStation controller as well, and pretty much anything else in there. So I have the 360s controller here. See, nice and tight, and it just looks beautiful. It's just as if it was always there. Well, if you like the video, make sure you hit the like at the bottom of the video. And if I get enough responses, so I might share a few other things I've done around my home for very cheap, for the stuff that otherwise you would pay a lot of money, and you'd pretty much just waste your hard-earned cash. Thank you for watching. Come back again. Bye.